This is the Sideslide. It's a light vanilla destroyer, 10,000 tons. The reason I had to create a new light vanilla destroyer is because Keen changed the damage range on their large ship, large engines. So all of my other destroyers were killing themselves. This one doesn't. It works fine. So I'm going to take you on a tour. It has a lot of features. Let's get started. The first feature you'll notice is that it has both a broadside and a forecannon arrangement. This allows it to fire on enemies, whichever direction they happen to be in. Now, if you're fighting something heavier than you, the forecannon is probably all you're going to need. But if you're fighting another destroyer or some corvettes, their maneuverability may leave you out of position from time to time, and you'll need to use your broadsides. In addition, the broadsides are extremely useful in ramming situations, which we'll talk about. We have a lot of turrets, but nearly all of them are missile turrets. That's because Gatling turrets are really not very useful against large ships, and I haven't seen them actually shoot down any of the missiles that they claim to be able to shoot down. Now, let's switch over to our human and actually go inside. Two connectors in back and a single entry point. There's an engineering area. If we go into the engineering area, this place is not pressurized, but it is fully walkable, so if you don't have a jetpack or whatever, you can get away with going in here. You can see there's a lot of air gaps. Now, in a large ship, air gaps are not quite as critical as in a small ship, but if you're fighting against modded weapons, they become critical again, because a lot of the modded large ship weapons have a hard time dealing with air gaps. The reason that we have air gaps here, besides that, is also because of this wheel. There's a reason this ship is called the Sideslide. If you press left or right, your wheels tilt left or right, and that allows you to tell whether or not the player is pressing left or right, and that allows you to turn on a gravity drive whenever they do. Unfortunately, the direction that the wheels are mounted doesn't matter, so I can't get the same information for forward, backwards, or Q and E. That would be awfully neat, though, if I could. Of course, what would be neatest is if I could just query the engines and the spinny things, the gyros, but I can't. Here's the entrance. Pretty basic. Now, this ship is not intended to resist a boarding attempt, so aside from that perfunctory entryway, we have the main cockpit area right here. So just so you realize it, it's not going to hold up if a crew storms it. But you can always lock the door or turn on the interior turret. The interior antennas are protected fairly well from harm, and we have some more reserve cockpit seats here and some side seats just in case you need to do that sort of thing. Over here we have our crew area. Because this is vanilla, we're limited to vanilla blocks, and that means that it's basically just flavor, but that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. You can swap these out with mod blocks if you want to. This door is locked because it leads down into engineering, which is not pressurized. In front of our crew section, we have medical. In theory, it has a crew of 12, but in actuality, you can fly this ship just one person if you need to. We'll come back to this area because this is the heart of our additional complexity, but let's keep on with the tour. Here we have some computers. These computers do actually do things, they're not just for flavor. And then we enter into the nose of the ship, and here is our observation deck. This, you might notice, is completely unarmored. A single missile hit will certainly open it up and vent it out. And here is our forward bridge, and it has the same problem. A single missile hit can easily vent it. Well, these areas are not intended to survive in combat. If we take a look, the front of the ship is noticeably more slender and less armored than the rest of the ship. Oh, the reason for that is because when you get into combat, your front section tends to take the most amount of damage because it's generally what you're pointing at the enemy. This is especially true if you're also firing with the front of your ship, so in a lot of situations you're going to end up with a pretty torn up forecannon, and you won't have any weapons left there. Well, you can then ram. This whole area is a beautiful crumple zone for ramming. Now if you ram at full speed with your gravity drive on, you'll probably end up destroying both ships. But if you ram at a moderate speed of say 70 meters per second and you don't have your gravity drives on, you'll be able to damage them without actually destroying yourself completely, and then they'll also be in a perfect position for you to slam them with your side cannons. Now, how does this ship fly? Well, let's pop back into the main seat, because there are some tricks that you need to learn. So the big answer to how this ship flies is that it's called the Sideslide for a reason. So if you look at the left, oxygen high, gravity 1. When I hit right, it moves to having gravity to the right, times 4. And it detects it instantly and automatically. This means that you can get a gravity assist on your left-right movement really quite easily without having to do any kind of additional work yourself. And you can see how fast we are, numerically speaking. We're not incredibly fast, but for a destroyer this is a pretty decent speed. Notice that when you stop moving, the normal gravity reasserts itself. So there's a complex system where there's a gravity, a habitable gravity generator that gets turned off when the mass drives get turned on, and a couple of other details. But you don't have to just do this left and right. You can go forward. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, the wheels don't detect forward motion, so you've got to manually trigger it with 3. And you can see it says moving and has some arrows pointing upwards. You can do both at the same time. So here you can see we're moving and strafing, and our gravity is 5.7 in that one direction there. You can see that we also have some purple goo, or some purple lights, designating that we are currently accelerating in that direction. If we were to press 4 to go backwards, you can see that the lights switch sides. Also, if you get out of your seat while your gravity drive is on, it automatically turns back off, so that you don't get flung backwards off the back of the ship or whatever. So these gravity assist systems are pretty effective, but it is best at moving left and right. You can also gravity jump, but keep in mind that you can always just jump, but keep in mind that these micro jumps have become less useful as the ships have become vulnerable to sudden explosive damage due to turning. So I might not recommend that. Also, you can turn on turrets, and if you'd like, you can even take over the ship from one of the sides so that you can fire your broadsides while actually being able to see what you're hitting. I really only recommend that if you've got a couple of crew members, though. Let's go ahead and put in another side slide, and I'll show you how durable this ship is. For a 10,000-ton ship, this is a pretty durable ship. You can open these doors manually. You don't have to use the buttons, although if you do that, you'll definitely decompress the ship. Let's go ahead and put 2 out here. You might see a little bit of slowdown when I do this. Now, the ship did decompress when I did that. I'm not sure why it didn't show, but that's okay. So you can get your camera view on, and you can aim with that. However, they've radically reduced the range of the little red laser dots, so it's very difficult to see what you're actually firing at. Well, keep in mind that the camera is above your weapons array substantially. See? So you're actually going to be firing below where you think you are. And to show you that, I'll go ahead and fire straight at the center here. And you can see we missed below. But if you keep that in mind, it's pretty easy for us to do some serious damage. So let's go ahead and do just that. Let's turn on our forward gravity, move sideways, and just start bombarding this guy. Keep in mind that nobody has any turrets turned on at this point. Right now we are strictly armaments, strictly missile armaments. So let's go ahead and ram the other ship. Keep in mind that if you are using your camera, you're likely to be aiming a little bit low, or sorry, a little bit high. Our nose is below the camera. In fact, our nose is below our primary vector. So even if you're not using the camera, you want to aim higher than you think. And the reason for that is simply because the ship has a downward slant at the front. And that's on purpose. It makes the rams less destructive to the ship, although they are pretty... Obviously, you're never going to get out of one unscathed. So when you are ramming, you'll normally want to leave your gravity drive on, but we're going to turn it off just so that we don't float away. And I'm also going to turn my... Oh, only 17 meters per second? That was friggin' sad. Well, let's take a look at all the damage that we did with our 17 meter per second ram. So here is the ramming we did. That wasn't a very effective ram in terms of actually being useful, but if we back off a little bit, which we can do by either pressing backwards or by using our reverse gravity drive, we can take a look at the damage that we dealt and caused. So we have some damage to our forward section, and all of our missiles are gone. And in addition, our forward pilot area is gone, but that is all crumple zone. That is all fine. When it comes to the damage we did to the engines of the enemy, we didn't really do anything. That's not really worth mentioning at all. Some of the engines absorbed the brunt, and then we broke into the crew area. It's totally unimportant damage. We'll have to do another ram at something a little bit faster to show you what it's really like. But let's take a look at the damage we did when we unleashed a long barrage on this ship. First off, we did cause quite a bit of damage to the forward array. This is the sort of damage you're always going to see when you're fighting like that. But that's fine. It's fine to be like that. We did end up breaching into the areas here and destroying the forward seats, so you definitely don't want to pilot from the nose. But you can see that the armor held up quite well everywhere else. Our broadside is still 100% intact. We even have missile turrets and stuff intact. We did lose our missiles on the side of the nacelle, and we lost a lot of nacelle engines. Yep, but we still have plenty of engines intact, and we definitely didn't suffer any actual critical damage. This ship is still fully functional. Aside from a slightly banged up front end, it is ready to rock. So let's go ahead and pop on over to it and use it to ram this ship. I'm pretty sure we could actually still pressurize this interior area if we closed those doors. Sorry, I'm just experimenting, seeing whether or not this area was decompressed. It looks like we do have some decompression damage. Oh, that's because this door's... Why did I leave all the doors open? Born in a barn. There we are. Yep, this area can still be oxygenated. Alright, so let's go ahead and ram ourselves some ships. Let's back up some so we can get a good run. Now keep in... Oh, that's not backing up. That's backing up. Now keep in mind that this ship runs very, very well if you go to the side, but it doesn't run too well if you go other directions. So if there's a direction you want to go, you generally want to make that to your side, like this. Because when you're moving left and right, it automatically kicks in that powerful gravity drive. Alright, let's get this ram on here. I love these level of detail pop-ins, don't you? Alright, so we are at full speed. I'm going to just turn off our gravity drive so that we don't do anything stupid. And then turn on our inertial, just so that we can see it better. I don't even think we lost our... Okay, there, we finally lost our camera. So let's take a look at our damage. Yay! We are still oxygenated, so... Okay, there we are. We're finally not oxygenated anymore. Whoa! Whoa, no! Oh, that was pretty neat. So let's take a look at the damage. We actually hit this ship in basically the worst possible location. Swiping off the end of these ships is never going to make any difference at all. So let's go ahead and take a look at how much damage we suffered when we did the ramming, to show you how viable ramming is or isn't. Now if we move into the ship that we did our ramming with, you can see that we actually got damaged all the way back to the central column here. But this is our piloting seat. Wow, that should not have survived, but it did, and we can still run this ship. But this strut here, that's the sort of thing that would make you believe in miracles if you were piloting this ship in real life. Let's go ahead and swap out to our external view and take a closer look. Both ships are still basically intact. The forward area on this ship is a crumple zone on purpose, and as you can see, we still have some reverse engines and maneuvering engines in every direction. We are still battle ready. Our broadsides are still intact, so we can still fight. This broadside is a little bit battered, but that's not too bad. Now, the ship we actually rammed, we did actually do more damage than I thought. We turned out to have hit it pretty core and then drifted off to the side, which explains why we have that giant strut of metal aimed straight at our head. So we ripped off this whole rear section of the ship. And it's down in engineering as well, so we didn't actually affect our upstairs sections, but our engineering is gone. Oh, no, the ship is upside down. Sorry, we did actually affect our... we affected the whole ship. We ripped everything apart. And this is where the cockpit would have been if it had survived. But it didn't survive. We gutted out the cockpit. But, yep, this guy's still intact, and certainly not intact on the other side. We still have several forward-facing systems intact, so I'm not too worried about it. There's one forward-facing seat still intact, and that means that this ship can still be flown. And, if you look at it, it's got a full broadside. It's got all of its maneuvering engines that it needs. This ship is ready to fight. Don't believe me? Let's go ahead and try it out. Wah! Keep in mind that after a ram, you probably won't have any more gravity assist. I can't really do anything about that. Ooh. Where was that? There is one still intact, but unless you've got the ship memorized, you wouldn't have been able to find it. Alright, so if we do this, we can now break off to the left. Oh, look at that! We still have gravity assist. That is awesome. So, if you were wondering, how much damage can a destroyer take before it becomes inoperable? The answer is, it depends on who designs it. If XPAR designs your destroyers, then, a lot. It looks like our forward gravity drive is actually busted. We probably lost the actual gravity elements. Still, Sideslide is still perfectly able to slide. It's so hard to aim without a reticule. Anyway, that is the ship. I hope you enjoyed it. And the actual ship comes with a floor map, well, on the Steam page. So you can even look at the floor map and have fun with that. It uses Mimir. So if you want any of this gravity assist stuff, you can access the Mimir code in this ship and dissect it, see how it works. The engines are all very straightforward. You just check the wheel, and if it's moving left, you move left. If it's moving right, you move right. And then, of course, the forward and back are manual. So the code is fairly straightforward. Give it a look if you wanted to have this kind of drive in your own ship.